Survivor 42 Episode 9 Breakdown. We went beyond the game this episode with deep, real-world discussions. Make sure to stay watching as I'll give my thoughts on the Tribal Council at the very end of the video. But on a happier note, there's a new round of our Survivor Buff giveaway. If you're new around here, all you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and comment down below who your winner pick is with only 8 players left in the game. As always, I'll announce last week's winner at the very end of this. Let's get right into it. Number 15, After Tribal. Pretty funny start to the episode as Romeo plays this off really well, saying to everyone no hard feelings, it's just a game. But as we cut right to the confessional, Romeo says screw these guys, they betrayed me. He was paranoid for a reason. It drove me nuts last week how everyone was pissed off how paranoid he was. And that leads right into number 14, High's perfect game. High ends up receiving a hinky vote from Romeo at the last Tribal Council, and we even get a flashback of Romeo giving High the vote in the most petty way possible. To all the uninitiated, the perfect Survivor game is when you receive no votes throughout the season and then receive every single vote at Final Tribal Council. This has only ever happened twice in the history of Survivor with JT Thomas and then Cochran. And while High is a major super fan of Survivor and he wants that dream of getting a perfect game. In fact, during Chanel's exit press last week, she talked about how much of a nerd High really is, and throughout the pre-merge on Vati, High would want to vote the correct way just to keep his perfect game alive. So in the most petty way possible, Romeo votes for High, ruining his perfect game, and High comes off really bad here, acting like a crazy person in front of everyone. I was really high on, well, High early in the season, but as the episodes progress, I think he's coming off worse and worse every episode. Number 13, The Roxroy Show. Here we go, Roxroy's finally starting to play Survivor, as he wants all the dudes to come together and form an all-male alliance. From first glance, sure, it kinda makes sense. There's 6 guys left and 4 girls left. It was Roxroy's plan, so obviously he's down for it, and Jonathan and Mike are down for it as well. But things start to fall apart pretty quickly with this plan as Omar and High are both not down. Omar gives a really good reason why he's not down with the plan, as if they ended up doing an all-dudes alliance, there's no chance Omar would ever win an individual immunity challenge. In fact, Eric Reichenbach from Survivor Fans vs. Favorites had the same reasoning. High ends up having a completely different reason as he thinks it's a little misogynistic, but I think he just doesn't like Roxroy. And last but not least, Romeo is just not included in the plan. We're gonna talk about it a little later in the video, but the Survivor producers are gonna have a field day with this one, as this entire plan ends up blowing up in Roxroy's face. Number 12, Immunity Twist. Similar to Survivor 41, actually the exact same as Survivor 41, the group of 10 players is gonna be split up into 2 teams of 5, with 2 people winning immunity and 2 people being voted out at Tribal Council. The big twist being they're gonna be going to Tribal Council separately, and whoever wins the challenge overall wins beef and veggie kebabs. We can't forget the winning group will also be going to Tribal Council last and seeing who was voted out in the first group. That's gonna be really important later on. Number 11, Immunity Challenge. If you're like me and you saw the promo going into the episode, you were already spoiled on what the groups were gonna be. The orange group was gonna be all the dudes, and the blue group was gonna be all the girls plus Jonathan. Again, just blowing up in Roxroy's face about the idea of the dudes alliance. The immunity challenge ends up being the classic balancing in the water, but because it's such a windy day, this challenge becomes near impossible for all the players. But I think this ended up being best case scenario. We find out a little bit later that they only got 2 to 3 hours to strategize after the challenge, meaning if this challenge went on for over an hour, they would have had no time to strategize. And I mean, I think it was a little more entertaining seeing all the players fly around than just standing still for an hour. High ends up winning for the orange team, Lindsay's throwing her arms around everywhere, and Jonathan wins the overall challenge. Number 10, Romeo vs. Roxroy. Here we go, the dudes alliance. Poor Roxroy, the editors were gonna be loving every second of this. Going into the episode, I really thought it was gonna be Romeo going home no matter what. And Romeo kinda thought the same thing, as he has nothing in common with Roxroy and Mike, and he was just in a huge fight with High, meaning the only person potentially on his side would be Omar. But Omar is the best player on the season, leading into our next point. Number 9, The Omar Show. We briefly touched on it at the start of the video, talking about Roxroy's plan of the dudes alliance, but when it was brought up to Omar, he completely disagreed with this idea. First of all, Omar just doesn't like the way Roxroy was going about it, and second of all, like we said earlier, how is Omar gonna win any challenges with all those bros? So what's he do? Manipulate everyone as he's the best player on the season. Omar decides to go up to Romeo and says, don't worry, you're good, we're gonna blindside Roxroy. The only problem being they need High along for the plan, and well, High and Romeo are in a big fight. Don't worry, Omar is a manipulator of this game. He convinces High to go along with the plan. High says he's down for the most part, but he needs Mike's blessing to truly be down. Number 8, Mike and High. I don't want to dive too much into this because obviously the main talking points of the episode happen much much later. Mike eventually says he's down with the plan, but he's really hesitant for a long time. Mike's a trustworthy guy, and he's scared that if he betrays Roxroy at this point, no one else is gonna want to work with him. But at the end of the day, he knows it, we know it, it makes the most sense for Roxroy to go. Right now, Romeo is desperate and down the line has the possibility to work with you. Whereas Roxroy's set in his ways. If he wants something to happen, it's the only thing he wants to do. Number 7, the reward. We're finally moving towards the main talking point of the episode. In this group, we have 3 Taku members, Marianne, Jonathan, and Lindsay, and 2 Ika members, Drea and Tori. So realistically, Taku can just decide what happens. This eventually leads into our next point, but we see Jonathan say he's put his ego aside all game, he's gonna put his ego aside today and talk to these girls in a cool, calm, and collective way. But he does the exact opposite. Number 6, Jonathan's big move. First of all, I just need to point out, I love the idea behind going for a big move and making something happen when you're saved with a necklace. I'm pretty sure that was Tyson's main strategy in Survivor Blood vs. Water, and it really makes the most sense making those big moves when you're safe. But as we always preach on this channel, there's a big difference between a big move and a smart move, and this was not a smart move. Jonathan goes to Marianne saying, yo, we're flushing Drea's idol tonight, let's blindside her. But for some reason, he wants Marianne to be the decoy vote, and for an even weirder reason, he tells Marianne she's the decoy vote. What? You never tell the person they're the decoy vote. Jonathan then goes to Drea with his magical plan, but it pulls up a few red flags for Drea. First of all, Marianne and Jonathan are supposed to be close. Why is he doing this? Second of all, if Jonathan wants to get rid of an idol, that's not good for Drea. Drea has an idol as well. None of this would end up happening. Drea wouldn't get any red flags if Tori was the decoy vote. Number 5, Jonathan versus Lindsay. Jonathan comes so close to coming up with a really good Survivor strategy, it's just he misses the mark by a little bit. At the end of this tribal council, there's going to be 8 people left in the game. 4 of them being original Taku, and with Marianne's extra vote and Marianne's hidden immunity idol, the Taku 4 has the possibility of going all the way to the end. But none of this will end up happening if Drea plays her hidden immunity idol and Marianne goes home. Lindsay knows this, tells Jonathan, why isn't Tori the decoy vote? This makes no sense. Jonathan's reasoning is because they're original tribe members, so they must be close. But us watching at home knows, and Lindsay knows, that Drea and Tori are not close in this game. Jonathan comes off really aggressive, and we get this awkward silence. Number 4, first tribal council. Our first group going to tribal council is obviously all the dudes, minus Jonathan. Mike ends up having a great speech about what the new era of Survivor really is all about. You go to bed paranoid, making all these plans, calculating the numbers, going through every scenario you possibly can over and over and over again. And then you get to an immunity challenge and that's all thrown away, meaning you only have 2 to 3 hours max to come up with a new plan. Roxroy ends up saying, it was a chill day, there wasn't much strategy going on, and that's when I knew, buddy, you can't say that, you're done. Number 3, Roxroy voted out. If you would have told me at any point during this season that Roxroy would have ended the season with 21 confessionals, I would have said, nah, you're lying, there's no chance. But it's true, Roxroy ended the season with 21 confessionals, and as the season went on, I enjoyed watching him more and more. If Roxroy was on Survivor 15 to 20 years ago, I say he would be a top tier Survivor player. Mike ends up calling it that voting Roxroy out of the game would cause a huge reaction, just not for the reason he was thinking. Number 2, second tribal council. But before we get there, you literally can't make this stuff up. I had a knock on my door, Survivor buffs came in the mail. As you can tell, I'm an avid Survivor buff collector. Anyway, someone's running a marathon, raising money for charity, and all the money from the buffs are going towards the charity. So I thought, why not? I'll help a good cause, I'll get a Survivor buff, and this is the one I ended up getting. Sorry for getting distracted, it's time to get back into serious mode. Unless you have physically walked in someone's shoes and understand what's going on in their life, I really don't think you can understand their lived experiences. And with that being said, I'm a 22-year-old white male from Canada who has a Survivor YouTube channel talking about Survivor. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm qualified to have the right answers or to understand and depict what went on at this tribal council. I said this last season as well, but any open discussions in the comments I would love to have. With that being said, negative comments attacking any of the players in the season, I'm gonna remove those right away. It is literally zero coincidence that the same dialogue, the same conversations happen in Survivor 41 as well in Survivor 42 when the Survivor 42 cast had never seen Survivor 41. We need to remember all of this was filmed basically a year ago during the height of the Black Lives Matter protest, so that was on everyone's mind. And I also need to say, in Survivor, perception is reality. We all know this, we're all super fans of this game. If you believe something's real, then it ends up being real in your reality. That's That's just how the game works. We get all the details watching at home. We know why Chanel was voted out. We know why Roxroy was voted out. But it looks completely different to Drea and Marianne. That's their perception, so that becomes their reality. Lindsay comes off here really well, but we cannot say the same thing about Jonathan. For all the love I've given Jonathan all season, this episode, in the later half of the episode, was pretty hard to watch. With getting way too aggressive with Lindsay before Tribal Council, and then his speech at Tribal Council. Last thing I'm going to say about this is Marianne had a true 10 out of 10 perfect S tier speech. From the game perspective, I think what ends up happening was going to happen anyway. Drea has every advantage in the book, and I think she was going to play her idol tonight no matter what. Marianne, for some reason, knew she was the decoy vote, so as soon as Drea plays her idol, Marianne was going to play her idol as well. Meaning, after a few shuffles, after a few re-votes, Tori was going to be going home no matter what. And I said during my last week's video, Drea should be playing her hidden immunity idol as soon as possible, as it looks better if she plays her idol before playing her knowledge is power. The part I can confidently say 100% I did not like about this Tribal Council was the way Jeff handled it at the very end, deciding not to have a vote. I get it, I understand real life and the game meshing together, but money is still on the line and they're still on Survivor. Whoever gets through this Tribal Council, they're waking up tomorrow on Survivor. In seasons past, when real world moments happen, the game will always start back up again. Think Andrea voting out Zeke in Survivor Game Changers and Deshawn voting out Shan in Survivor 41. The difference between this moment and the Jeff Varner incident in Survivor Game Changers, there was no shot in the dark in that situation. Jeff Varner did not have a hidden immunity idol, meaning there was zero chance he was going to save himself. In this situation, the idols get played before the discussion happens, and obviously Tori's going to end up playing her shot in the dark. What happens next if Tori's shot in the dark works? I'm under the belief that Lindsay should have played her shot in the dark as well, but if they both end up being safe, then literally everyone at this Tribal Council is safe. What do you do now, Jeff? I firmly believe these types of situations are going to come up again in the future. It's just Jeff needs to be more prepared for when they happen. Number 1, Tori sent home. Congratulations to Rojo, you're this week's buff giveaway winner. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. I'll announce a new winner next week and click right here for my Survivor winner rankings.